It begins quietly. A restless feeling in the chest. I whisper in the dark that something needs to change, but you do not know what. You feel the year slipping through your hands, and with it, the chances you promised yourself you would take. You scroll through another highlight reel, feel that hollow ache, and ask yourself, is this it? Is this how another year ends, with me in the same place, thinking the same thoughts, repeating the same patterns? You are not alone. That quiet panic haunts millions. And most of them will carry it into the next year like an unpaid debt, adding more goals to the list, hoping that more effort will erase the weight of delay. But you, right now, are not most people. Because you have paused. You have leaned in. You have asked the question that matters: what must change before this year ends? Not someday, but now. The question has power. It separates the dreamers from the doers. It draws a line between those who wait for time to deliver answers and those who choose to become the answer. This book is not a checklist. It is not a sprint. It is a soul shift. It is a roadmap out of delay, self-minus doubt, indecision, and into clarity, alignment, and activation. The 5 things we will explore are not merely actions. They are awakenings. They are not about doing more, they are about becoming more. Because when you change who you are being, the world changes how it responds to you. Let me be honest with you from the start. The clock is ticking. Not in fear, but in truth. Time is not slowing down. You will not get around to it unless you make time. And yet, this is the miracle: you are not late. You are right on time for your own awakening. Because every breakthrough has a moment, and for you, that moment is now. What keeps most people from doing the 5 things that could change everything? It is not laziness. It is not ignorance. It is not even fear. It is distraction. Numbness. Noise. The world is louder than ever, pulling at your attention, seducing your focus, training you to react instead of reflect. You start your days in a rush and end them in regret. Not because your days are meaningless, but because you forgot how to lead them. That ends here. This book will challenge you. Not with pressure, but with presence. You will be called to see your time as sacred. To see your habits as spiritual. To see your decisions as declarations of who you are becoming. Because what you do between now and the end of this year is not just about finishing strong. It is about starting right. Not waiting for January. Not hoping for motivation. But waking up to your authority now. The 5 things you are about to learn will not just set you up for 2026. They will separate you from who you were in 2024. They will break patterns. End excuses. Activate vision. Reignite your identity. And more than anything, they will show you that change is not about time, it is about choice. You are one decision away from a completely different year. Not a perfect year, but a real one. Here is the core philosophy of this book: the future does not begin on January 1st. The future begins the moment you decide the past no longer owns your mind. You do not need more time. You need more clarity. You do not need a better plan. You need a bolder presence. The people who thrive in the next chapter of their life are not the ones who waited for the calendar to flip. They are the ones who flip the switch in their soul. So, this is your switch. This is your moment to pause the patterns. To pull back the curtain. To look in the mirror and say, I will not carry this into another year. I will not let the old story win. I will not water dead dreams just because I am afraid to plant new ones. I will not make peace with delay. I will make war with the excuses that have stolen my fire. And I promise you this, if you walk with me through these next parts, not just reading, but receiving, you will arrive in 2026 unrecognizable. Not because life gave you permission, but because you stopped waiting for it. So take a breath. This is not another self-help push. This is a return. I return to the version of you that still believes, that still burns, that still dares. The version that says if this year ends, it ends with me awake. Chapter 1. Face the mirror before the clock strikes. Before the year ends, before you race into resolutions, before you write new goals and post shiny promises, there is one thing you must do: face the mirror. Not the one on your wall, the one in your soul. Because what keeps most people trapped in cycles is not a lack of ambition. It is the refusal to confront what is real. You cannot change what you will not name. You cannot rise while hiding from your truth. Most people want transformation without the tension. They want results without reckoning. But breakthrough never begins with movement. It begins with mirror work. The kind where you stop pretending. Where you peel back the layers. Where you look at your habits, your patterns, your thoughts, and ask not with judgment, but with raw honesty, is this who I choose to be? You cannot build the next chapter on the lies you told yourself to survive the last one. If you want to become the kind of person who finishes strong and enters 26 with power, then you must begin by clearing the fog. The fog of excuses. The fog of delay. The fog of pretending you do not care as much as you do. You must face your reality, not as a punishment but as your starting point. There is something sacred about owning your truth. Saying, I wasted time this year. Saying I stayed silent when I should have spoken. Saying I betrayed my dream to make others comfortable, not to stay in shame but to stand in clarity. Because when you name the pattern, you take its power. When you admit the truth, you reclaim your authority. And that is the first fire you need before anything else, the fire of radical honesty. I remember a woman who came to me in tears one December, heartbroken by another year of unfinished dreams. I keep starting things, she said, but I never finish them. I always find a way to talk myself out of it. I am tired of being my own enemy. She thought what she needed was more motivation. But what she needed was a mirror. I asked her one question that changed everything. What lie do you keep telling yourself that makes quitting feel reasonable? She stared for a long time. Then she said quietly that it does not matter. That I do not matter. That was her woe. Not the missed deadlines. Not the schedule. Not the money. The lie. And until she named it, she kept obeying it. What is the lie you obeyed this year? That you are too late. That your voice does not count. That it is safer not to hope. That you will fail again. So why try? You must pull it into the light. You must stand in front of it not as a victim, but as a warrior. Because the lie only controls the life you will not examine. This is your time to examine. Not to spiral in guilt, but to say, here is what is real. And here is what I choose to change. No more hiding behind positivity. No more spiritual bypassing. No more burying the ache in productivity. Just truth. Just presence. Just courage. Because clarity is not a feeling. It is a decision. You decide to see clearly. You decide to think differently. And from that decision, everything begins. Let us go deeper. What story have you repeated this year? About who you are. About what you deserve. About what you are capable of. Stories are not facts. They are choices. And the most dangerous stories are the ones you never realize you are telling. The ones hidden inside your tone, your schedule, your silence. It is not the loud lies that trap us. It is the quiet ones we repeat in autopilot. I challenge you now to name your top 3 the story you tell about why you do not take care of your body. The story you tell about why you stay in toxic relationships. The story you tell about why you cannot start that project, launch that business, write that book, heal that wound. Write them down. Say them out loud. Look them in the eye. And then say, this story ends with me. You must become the storyteller, not the story. You must reclaim the pen. The calendar is not your master. The past is not your ceiling. The mirror is not your judge. These are tools. And when you use them with truth, they become your freedom. Let me give you something practical. Set aside 1 hour this week. No phone. No distractions. Just you, a notebook, and a quiet place. Ask yourself 3 questions. What am I pretending not to know? What does the highest version of me refuse to tolerate? What has the last year been trying to teach me, and have I learned it? Write until it hurts. Write until it heals. Do not stop when you feel resistance. That is the sign you are close. Truth is not always loud. Sometimes it is a whisper you have ignored for years. Listen to it now. Give it space. And then ask, what do I want this next year to feel like? Not look like, feel like. Peace? Power? Alignment? You must know the feeling before you can build the life. The reason most resolutions fail is because they are built on disconnection. You cannot create results from a mindset you have not redefined. You cannot create momentum from a story you refuse to change. And you cannot become someone new while staying loyal to who you have been. So here is your first of 5. The foundation. The fire starter. Before 2026 begins, face yourself. Stand in front of your truth without shame, without filters, without fear. Say it all. Own it all. Forgive it all. Then choose. Because if you do not choose your story will choose your future. And this time your future deserves better. Chapter 2. Cut what drains you. You cannot take everything with you. Not into a new year. Not into a new season. Not into the life you are trying to create. Some things were never meant to cross the threshold. Some people were only meant to walk with you part of the way. Some habits were only meant to teach you what not to repeat. But here is the truth: most people never elevate, not because they lack vision, but because they are too afraid to release. Before 2026 begins, you must cut what drains you. It is not a suggestion. It is a survival code. You cannot rise while carrying what is slowly killing your energy. You cannot soar while dragging weights you were never meant to hold. And most of what we call loyalty is actually fear. Fear of confrontation. Fear of being alone. Fear of what it means to be misunderstood. So we keep toxic relationships. We keep soul-minus numbing commitments. We keep stories and rhythms that dilute our fire, and then we wonder why we feel heavy. But hear me, anything that drains your peace is too expensive. Anything that makes you betray your own soul for temporary comfort is too high a price. You must begin asking the question that few dare to ask: does this deserve a place in my next chapter? Not based on history. Not based on guilt. Not based on obligation. Based on alignment. Based on truth. Based on who you are becoming. I once spoke with a man whose business was failing, his marriage on the rocks, and his health deteriorating. He had all the tools, all the plans, all the affirmations, but none of it worked. Why? Because he refused to let go of the identity that kept saying, "I have to do everything. I cannot say no. I must keep everyone happy." That identity was not serving him. It was suffocating him. And the day he finally released it, when he stopped apologizing for protecting his energy, everything began to change. Not instantly, but inevitably. Why do we hold on to what hurts us? Because familiarity feels like safety. Because the mind would rather stay in predictable pain than step into uncertain power. Because we confuse consistency with loyalty, even when that consistency is toxic. But what you tolerate becomes what you teach. And every day you allow something to drain you, you are silently declaring, "This is what I deserve." But that is a lie. You do not deserve to live with your joy leaking. You do not deserve to explain your boundaries over and over. You do not deserve to wake up dreading the people and environments you created. And 2026 will not save you. The new year will not heal what you refuse to cut. You must do the cutting. Cut the conversations that leave you anxious. Cut the habits that leave you empty. Cut the environments that require you to dim. Cut the stories that feed your fear. Cut the rhythms that bury your power. Cut it not with anger but with clarity. Because clarity is love. And boundaries are not rejection. They are protection. Let me give you something practical. This week, make 3 lists. Call them what they are. What gives me life? What numbs me? What drains me? Be ruthless. Be honest. And when you finish the 3rd list, put a star next to every item that has been in your life for more than 6 months. Then ask, why is it still here? Who am I trying to please? What fear am I obeying? And what would happen if I finally let it go? You will feel resistance. That is normal. Your mind will panic. Your emotions will protest. But that resistance is not a sign to stop. It is proof you are pulling on something that has rooted itself in your identity. Keep pulling. Because freedom is not found in doing more. Freedom is found in doing less of what does not align. There is someone you need to forgive. Do it now. There is something you need to say no to. Say it now. There is a decision you have been postponing because you are afraid of how others will respond. Make it now. Because every time you postpone the cut, you prolong the cost. And the cost is your energy, your clarity, your future. You were not made to live tired. You were not designed to barely make it through your day. You were made to rise, to build, to breathe deeply, to walk into your future light, not weighed down by things that no longer belong. And yes, it might be painful. But pain is not the enemy. Prolonged pain is. When you hold on to something past its season, it begins to rot. And what once gave you comfort now poisons your calling. That is the risk of refusal. But the reward of release. Space. Mental space. Emotional space. Spiritual space. And into that space, new strength will rise. New relationships. New peace. New momentum. So cut. Cut with grace. Cut with vision. Cut not because you are cruel, but because you are finally clear. You cannot elevate without eliminating. And this time you will not take the poison with you. Chapter 3. Forgive the past to free the future. Before the clock strikes midnight on the final day of this year, there is something sacred that must happen inside you. Not in your schedule. Not in your bank account. Not in your appearance. In your spirit. You must release the grip of resentment. You must unclench the fists you have kept around pain for far too long. You must stop dragging the old heartbreak, the unspoken disappointment, the silent rage into every new day. Why? Because what you do not forgive, you repeat. Most people think forgiveness is about the past. But it is not. Forgiveness is the key to the future. Because as long as you are still mentally replaying what they did, how you failed, what you lost, or how unfair it all was, you are not in your future, you are imprisoned in your history. You are reacting, not creating. You are rehearsing wounds, not receiving wisdom. And the year cannot end clean if your heart is still dirty with old stories. Some of you reading this know exactly what I am speaking about. There is someone you said you let go of, but the moment their name is mentioned, your body tenses. There is a version of you you said you healed, but deep down, you are still ashamed. There is an apology you never received. There is a betrayal you still carry like a scar under your success. And you tell yourself it does not matter. But it does. It leaks into your decisions. It poisons your joy. It keeps you small. I am not here to tell you that what happened was okay. I am here to tell you that holding on to it is not. Because every ounce of energy you give to resentment is energy you steal from your future. You think you are protecting yourself by not letting go, but you are punishing yourself. And the one who hurt you is not paying that cost. You are. Why do people struggle to forgive? Because they believe that forgiveness makes what happened acceptable. But that is a lie. Forgiveness does not say, it was right. Forgiveness says, it no longer has permission to live in me. It is the decision to stop being a home for pain that never pays rent. It is the declaration that you will no longer be defined by what you did, what they did, or what never came. The psychology of unforgiveness is rooted in identity protection. Your brain builds emotional walls around pain to prevent further injury. But those same walls also block intimacy, opportunity, creativity, peace. Unforgiveness creates a fortress, and in the fortress, nothing grows. You stay stuck. Safe maybe, but stagnant. And the price of that protection is your potential. To think beyond limits, you must become fluent in release. You must practice forgiveness like it is a muscle. And not just for others, for yourself. Because often, the hardest person to forgive is not the one who hurt you. It is the one who let it happen. You. You knew better. You stayed too long. You ignored the signs. You broke your own boundaries. And now you punish yourself through delay, self-sabotage, hyper-independence. But let me ask you, what would happen if you stopped punishing and started parenting yourself? If instead of shame you gave compassion? If instead of judgment you offered understanding? You would not let a child carry blame for what they could not control. Why do you keep doing it to yourself? This chapter is not about giving advice. It is about giving permission. Permission to weep. Permission to write the letter you will never send. Permission to scream, to exhale, to grieve. To finally stop pretending that you are unaffected. And then when the pain has surfaced, permission to say, this does not define me. This is over. And I am free. Let us get practical. This week, set a sacred time, 30 minutes alone. Write down 3 people you must forgive, 1 person, 1 system, and 1 version of yourself. Then write 1 sentence to each. I forgive you for. You no longer owe me anything. I am choosing peace, not permission. Burn the page if you must, or keep it as a memorial to your freedom. But let that moment mark the end of the replay. Let it be your soul's declaration: I am no longer available for the emotional weight of the past. Some of you will feel a shift instantly. Some of you will need to practice this daily. That is okay. Forgiveness is not always a decision, it is a discipline. It is waking up every day and choosing to be free again. Until one day, the memory comes and the sting is gone. You are not soft for forgiving. You are not foolish for releasing. You are wise for not letting pain write your future. You are strong for choosing peace over proof. And you are brave for believing that healing is not a fantasy. It is a choice, and one you are finally ready to make. Because what you forgive, you transcend. And what you transcend, you never have to carry again. Chapter 4. Choose one standard that scares you. There is something more dangerous than failure, more subtle than fear, more seductive than laziness. It is the quiet choice to stay at the level you already know. To wake up and be slightly dissatisfied, but not enough to change. To live surrounded by distractions, comfort, approval, and call it a life. Most people will spend their entire existence right there in the gray. Not broken, but not alive. Not suffering, but not fulfilled. Not lost, but not found. And the reason? Because they never raise their standard. Before 2026 begins, you must do something rare. Something holy. Something only the few ever choose. You must select one standard that scares you. One line that redefines what you will tolerate. One rule that governs how you show up, not for a week, not when it feels good, but always. That standard becomes your new baseline. And once it is raised, everything beneath it must be either transformed or eliminated. Standards are not goals. Goals are something you hope to reach. Standards are something you refuse to live beneath. Standards are not fantasies. They are non-negotiables. They are the lines you draw in the sand that say, no more excuses. No more waiting. No more tolerating what drains my energy and dishonors my future. Why is this so hard? Because raising your standard costs you your identity. You cannot think like the old you and rise into a new standard. You cannot carry the habits of your lowest self into the house of your highest vision. And that means loss. Loss of comfort. Loss of validation. Loss of routines that have become rituals in your story of delay. But let me tell you this: the pain of raising your standard is always temporary. The cost of staying the same, eternal. I once met a man who had lost everything: his marriage, his health, his business. He told me, I do not know how I got here, but as we dug it became clear it was not one big mistake. It was the slow decay of standards. He stopped doing the small things that once built his strength. He started letting the little lies slide. He started believing the voice that said, just this once. And when a man betrays his own standard long enough, he begins to believe that he deserves the fall. But your fall is not your identity. Your habits are not your fate. And your future is not found in perfection. It is found in alignment with a standard that reminds your soul what you are really made of. So let us get practical. What is one standard, just one that, if raised, would change the trajectory of your next year? Is it physical? I move my body every day, no matter what. Is it mental? I do not allow negative loops to stay in my head unchallenged. Is it emotional? I no longer explain my boundaries, I enforce them. Is it relational? I only allow reciprocal energy. I no longer beg to be understood. It might be uncomfortable. That is the point. If it does not stretch you, it will not shift you. Now once you have named it, announce it. To someone. Somewhere. Say it out loud. Write it in your space. Let the world and your mind know this is my new standard. This is who I am now. And here is the truth most will never tell you: when you raise your standard, your life will rebel. Everything around you that was built on your lower standard will resist. People will test you. Old patterns will claw back. Circumstances will try to pull you into apology. But you must stand. Not with arrogance. With certainty. With grace. With the quiet, grounded strength of someone who no longer negotiates with weakness. Because once your standard rises, your self-respect returns. Once your self-respect returns, your energy increases. And once your energy increases, your future opens. That is the domino effect of choosing one sacred standard. And no, it will not be easy. There will be days you fail. Days you forget. Days you fall short. But here is the difference between the old you and the you that is rising. The old you made excuses. The new you makes adjustments. You course-correct quickly. You do not spiral into shame. You remember the standard and return to it like a compass. That is how power is built. Not by being perfect, but by being consistent with a new identity. You are not who you were. Stop thinking like it. Stop speaking like it. Stop acting like it. This is your new floor. And everything below it is now an echo, not a home. So pick the standard. Claim it. Build it into your days like breath. Because if you do not choose your standard, the world will assign you one. And it will always be lower than your purpose. One standard. That is all it takes. One shift. One raised line. One sacred yes to your future. Choose it now before the new year arrives and you forget that this moment was available. Choose it while your soul is listening. Choose it while your fire is still warm. Choose it before another version of you begins to fade. Because once you raise the standard, you raise your life. Chapter 5. Do the one thing you keep avoiding. There is something on your list right now. Not a small task. Not a trivial errand. Something sacred. Something heavy. Something that has been whispering your name for weeks, months, maybe even years. You think about it when you are alone. It shows up in your dreams, your journals, your morning thoughts. You have told yourself you will get to it when life calms down, when the timing is right, when you feel more ready. But the longer you delay it, the heavier it becomes. And now, the clock is ticking. Not as a threat, but as an invitation. Because before this year ends, you must do the one thing you keep avoiding. Not because it will solve everything, but because it will wake you up. Avoidance is a slow death. Every time you delay something that matters, you reinforce the lie that you cannot trust yourself. You weaken your confidence. You begin to see yourself as someone who makes promises they do not keep. And that belief will shape your behavior, your energy, your future. What is the thing you are avoiding? Is it the conversation you know you need to have? Is it the project that feels too big? Is it the habit you know is killing your momentum? Is it the truth you have not had the courage to admit? Avoidance is not about laziness. It is about fear. Fear of discomfort. Fear of failure. Fear of success. Fear that if you face it, something inside you will have to change and you are not sure who you will be on the other side. But here is what you must understand: the thing you are avoiding is the door. The doorway to your next level. And it is not guarded by giants. It is guarded by your silence. Break that silence, and the entire room shifts. I once spoke with a woman who had carried an idea for 7 years. A powerful message. Audiobook. She would write a few pages, then stop. She blamed time, kids, work. But when we sat together in truth, she admitted the real reason: what if I finish it, and it is not good? Her avoidance was not about the book. It was about her belief that she could not survive disappointment, that she could not handle rejection, that her voice might not be worthy. I told her something simple. The pain of never knowing will always be greater than the pain of trying. She wrote the book, not because she became fearless, but because she got tired of living half-minus alive. She got tired of rehearsing the future but never entering it. You must reach that point. The point where your desire for integrity becomes louder than your desire for comfort. Where keeping your word to yourself is more sacred than keeping others impressed. Because the truth is, what you avoid does not go away. It waits. And it grows. The psychology of avoidance is fueled by mental loops. I need more time. I need more research. It is not that important. But behind those loops is a deeper voice saying, I am afraid to fail. I am afraid to be seen. I am afraid to want this too much. And until you confront that fear, you will keep circling the same mountain. Thinking beyond limits requires action in the direction of resistance. You must lean into what scares you. Not recklessly but deliberately. You must become the kind of person who moves when most people freeze. Who acts while others analyze. Who breaks the pattern by breaking the silence. So here is your challenge: identify the one thing. Not 5. Not 10. 1. The one action, decision, or conversation that would move your life forward if you just did it. Write it down. Then write this under it: I do not need it to be easy. I need it to be done. Now schedule it. Put it in your calendar within the next 72 hours. Not someday, not when I have time, now. And when the fear rises, and it will breathe through it. Remind yourself fear is not the signal to stop. It is a confirmation that you are touching destiny. And if you fail? Good. Failure means you started. It means you got in the ring. It means you stopped playing life in theory and started practicing it in truth. You cannot grow without friction. You cannot expand without exposure. And you cannot finish strong while avoiding the very thing that your soul is begging you to complete. The most powerful people you know are not fearless. They are free. Free from the lie that says avoidance keeps you safe. Free from the paralysis of perfection. Free from the belief that you need more time. They do not wait for clarity. They create it by doing the thing. So write the words. Make the call. Send the message. End the relationship. Begin the habit. Forgive yourself. Launch the thing. Break the loop. And do it not because it is perfect, but because it is time. This is how you close the year with power. Not by doing everything, but by doing the one thing that matters most. The thing you said you would do. The thing that will shift the atmosphere of your future. The thing that proves to your mind that when you say something, you mean it. Do not carry this avoidance into another year. It does not deserve your energy. And your next chapter cannot begin until this one thing ends. Chapter 6. Build an unbreakable morning. If you win the morning, you do not need to chase the day. But if you lose the morning, the day drags you like a leash. It is not magic. It is not mystery. It is math. Your morning is the multiplier of your mindset. It is the anchor of your energy, the thermostat of your thinking, the first agreement you make with yourself before the world makes demands of you. And most people treat it like an afterthought. Before 2026 begins, you must build the morning so strong that it pulls you forward even on the days your emotions fail. A morning so powerful that your mind does not wait for motivation, it begins in movement. This is not about waking up at 5 a.m. or doing what influencers say. This is about alignment, integrity, momentum. A ritual that reminds you every day who you are, what you stand for, and what you will not tolerate. I have met high performers across the globe. Some are artists. Some are CEOs. Some are athletes. Some are healers. And though their lives look different, they have one thing in common: they do not leave their morning to chance. They design it. They defend it. Because they understand that the morning is not just a routine. It is a ritual of authority. The average person starts their day in reaction. Their phone lights up. They scroll. They read the news. They check emails. Their nervous system is hijacked before their spirit even wakes up. They are already behind, already consumed, already overwhelmed. They eat whatever is quick. They rush through the first hour. And then they wonder why the day feels heavy. But the extraordinary. They start with command. They do not wake up to the world. They wake up to themselves. They move their body. They move their breath. They speak life into the silence. They align their energy before they give it away. Not because it is easy. Because it is essential. Why is morning so powerful? Because it is your only untouched moment. The only part of the day the world has not touched, polluted, or distracted. And if you do not claim it as sacred, it becomes common. And common energy cannot build in common results. Let us be honest, you do not need more time in the day. You need more ownership of the first hour. You need to stop waking up to your weaknesses. You need to stop beginning your day already behind. You need to stop negotiating with fatigue before you have even moved. And yes, it will be hard at first, because the old you will fight to stay alive. But the new you is built in the tension. So let us get practical. I will not give you a formula. I will give you freedom through structure. Every morning before the outside world enters your mind, give yourself 3 sacred spaces. Movement. Move your body for 10-30 minutes. Walk. Stretch. Breathe. Not for fitness. For flow. For blood. For power. When the body moves, the mind follows. Silence or reflection, sit with your soul. Journal. Pray. Breathe. Ask yourself, what am I carrying that I do not need? And release it before it buries your momentum. Activation. Read something that reminds you of your greatness. Speak an affirmation. Write your one goal for the day. Say it out loud. Lock it into your nervous system. Feel it before you live it. And yes, some mornings you will feel tired. Some mornings you will want to skip. But those are the most important days. Because discipline is not proven on the easy days. It is built in the resistance. And every time you win the morning, you create a victory that compounds. You become the kind of person who no longer obeys emotion, but leads it. You stop starting your day in fear and start stepping into it with fire. Because your future does not belong to the person with the most time. It belongs to the person with the clearest start. Some of you have let your mornings die. Not intentionally. Slowly. Life crept in. Responsibilities grew. But now, you must resurrect it. Not for performance. For peace. Not for others. For you. Because how you start is how you think. And how you think is how you live. Build it. Not just once. Every day. Even when it is messy. Even when it is short. Even when you do not feel it. Because every act of consistency carves a new identity. And soon, the morning will not be something you do. It will be someone you are. And that person, they do not need motivation. They are momentum. So rise. Claim the hour. Design the silence. Move the body. Anchor the mind. Light the fire. Before anyone asks anything of you, remind yourself who you are. This is how 2026 finds you. Not stumbling in, but walking forward with a trained soul. Chapter 7. Break the agreement with mediocrity. There is an unspoken agreement most people make without realizing it. A quiet handshake between their soul and their survival. It happens after enough setbacks, disappointments, criticisms, and close calls. It whispers, just stay here. Settle. You are doing fine. Be grateful. Do not ask for too much. And in that moment, something sacred is exchanged potential for permission. The soul stops reaching. The mind stops risking. The dream is no longer chased, it is explained away. That agreement has a name. It is called mediocrity. Before 2026 begins, you must break that agreement. Not casually. Violently. You must burn the contract you signed with a life that only requires half of you. You must revoke the silent permission you gave your old self to stay in places you have outgrown. Because mediocrity is not about failure. It is about accepting less than you are capable of. It is not the absence of greatness, it is the presence of compromise. Most people think mediocrity means being average. It does not. Mediocrity is personal. It means you are operating beneath your capacity. That your words, your decisions, your standards, your presence, they have been dimmed. Not by accident, but by agreement. And that agreement gets reinforced every time you delay action, justify your comfort, or downplay your gift. I have sat across from people who had extraordinary callings, authors, leaders, healers, artists. But you would never know it by how they carried themselves. Not because they lacked skill, but because they normalized their silence. They became experts at hiding their own greatness. And when I asked why, it always came back to one thing: I did not want to expect too much. I did not want to be disappointed. So they made the trade. No disappointment, but also no disruption. No criticism, but also no contribution. No risk, but also no real joy. That is the cost of mediocrity. It protects you from pain, but it robs you of power. And maybe you feel that cost now. Maybe you have built a life that is stable, acceptable, even admirable, but deep inside there is a scream. A sacred restlessness. A voice saying, this is not it. This is safe. But this is not true. And if you do not listen to that voice, it will go quiet. But so will your soul. To think beyond limits, you must become violent with anything that shrinks you. You must look at your routines, your conversations, your digital consumption, your calendar, and ask, does this feed my future or numb it? And anything that numbs must be removed. Not gradually. Immediately. because comfort becomes a coffin if you stay there too long. Let us be clear, this is not about chasing more. This is about becoming more. There is nothing noble about mediocrity. There is nothing humble about shrinking. You are not being modest. You are being manipulated by fear, by culture, by people who benefit from your silence. And this is the moment you break the spell. Hell. You decide. You draw a new agreement. One written not in goals, but in identity. You write this in your mind and in your bones. I do not do half-minus effort. I do not speak with uncertainty. I do not tolerate environments that do not honor my soul. I do not live in reaction. I do not repeat cycles that have expired. I do not pretend to be less than I am. And then you live it. You show up with energy when you feel tired. You speak the truth when silence would be easier. You pursue excellence when average will get a pass. You no longer apologize for your power. You no longer explain your hunger. You no longer ask for permission to be who you are. Practical application. Audit your environment. Where in your life have you made peace with mediocrity? Look at your health, your relationships, your money, your time, your integrity. Find the cracks. Then close them ruthlessly. If something pulls you toward smallness, it does not deserve your loyalty. Walk away. And yes, people will notice. Some will be uncomfortable. Some will call it pride. Some will say you are doing too much. Let them. That discomfort is not your problem. Their resistance is not your responsibility. What is your responsibility? The fire inside you. The potential still unfulfilled. The calling that will not go away. You did not come here to do okay. You did not come here to play safe. You did not come here to get by. You came here to build something eternal. To rise. To roar. To leave a mark that silence could never make. So break the agreement. Burn the contract. Shatter the ceiling you forgot you agreed to live under. Because the moment you decide that mediocrity no longer has access to you, everything changes. Chapter 8. Redefine success before the world does it for you. It begins in childhood. A glance of approval when you achieve. A silent nod when you perform. A reward for meeting someone else's expectations. And just like that, a pattern forms. Success is something outside of you. A scoreboard. A checklist. A performance. A picture that others approve of. And you learn without anyone needing to say it that what matters is what the world can see. But that definition is a trap. It is seductive, addictive, and ultimately soul-minus stealing. Because no matter how much you earn, build, post, accomplish, there is always a gap. A gnawing sense that something is missing. Not because you are broken, but because you have built your entire sense of value on someone else's version of victory. Before 2026 begins, you must do what few ever dared to do: redefine success. Not with fluff. With fire. With truth. You must strip away every expectation that was never yours. Every standard that was inherited. Every should that shaped your decisions. And you must ask the most important question of all: what does a successful life feel like to me? Not look like. Feel like. Because if your definition of success does not match your soul, you will achieve everything and still feel empty. You will build what they said was right, but live what feels wrong. You will smile for the camera while your heart whispers, this is not it. And the tragedy is not that people fail. The tragedy is that they succeed at the wrong thing. I once coached a man who had every external marker of success: money, property, a stunning career. But he was numb, exhausted, disconnected from his kids. He told me, "I wake up and wonder if it is worth it," not because he lacked strength, but because he had never defined the win. He had only chased what the world applauded. And when he finally admitted what he really wanted, quiet mornings, depth over attention, truth over title, she began to live. You must do the same. Because what they call success may not be what your soul was designed to carry. You may not want the house. You may not want the spotlight. You may not want the pressure of chasing numbers. And if you do, that is beautiful. But only if it is yours. So what does success look like in this next season? Peace? Presence? Integrity? Impact? A body that feels strong? A marriage that feels real? A business that feels aligned? A mind that feels free? That is the success you must claim. Not to impress. To inhabit. The psychology of misaligned success is this: your nervous system will always rebel against what your spirit did not choose. And that rebellion shows up as burnout, anxiety, sabotage, procrastination. Not because you are lazy, but because your inner world is in conflict with your outer pursuit. To think beyond limits, you must build a success structure rooted in self-minus trust. You must learn to say, "I am proud of this," even if no one claps. "I value this," even if it earns you no points. This matters, even if it does not scale, monetize, or trend. Because real power is when your life reflects your values, not someone else's expectations. Let us get practical. Sit with this question: if no one ever saw my life, would I still choose to live it this way? If the answer is no, something must shift. And then, write your success statement. One sentence. Present tense. Specific. Felt. Alive. For example, success for me is waking up without anxiety, doing work I believe in, loving the people in my life with presence, and ending the day in peace. Now read it every morning. Not to achieve it. To remember it. Because the world will keep trying to sell you other definitions. Flashier ones. Louder ones. Versions that look better in pixels than in peace. And if you are not anchored in your truth, you will drift. Also audit your current pursuits. Which goals are legacy? Which are ego? Which are rooted in love? Which are rooted in fear? Let go of anything that no longer fits. Let go of anything that was built from the wound instead of the wisdom. You do not need to keep chasing what you no longer believe in. Redefining success is not about doing less. It is about doing right. Right by your heart. Right by your alignment. Right by the life you actually want. And once you define it, your energy will return. Your clarity will sharpen. Your comparison will die. Because now, you are not competing. You are creating. And yes, it may look different than what others celebrate. But let them chase the crowd. You chase clarity. You chase what feels alive. You chase what brings you back to yourself. Because that is success. Not an achievement. An awakening. And when 2026 arrives, you will not need to fake the smile. You will not need to prove anything. You will be standing in a life that reflects who you are, not what they wanted from you. And that, my friend, is the only kind of success worth sacrificing for. Chapter 9. Take back the hours you gave away. Time is not money. It is more valuable than money. Money lost can be made again. But a wasted hour is irreplaceable. You cannot download more of it. You cannot purchase a rewind. Once it is spent, it is gone. And yet most people treat time like it is disposable. They give it away for free. They sell it for cheap. They sacrifice it to distractions, obligations, addictions, and approval. Not because they do not care, but because they forgot how sacred it is. Before 2026 begins, you must take back the hours you gave away. Not all of them, but enough to start living again. Because time is not just about how you fill your schedule, it is about how you shape your soul. You become what you repeat. And what you repeat is what you give time to. So if your days are filled with noise, delay, or unconscious cycles, your life becomes a reflection of that chaos. It does not matter how gifted you are. If your calendar is misaligned, your purpose will always feel out of reach. Most people say they do not have time. But that is not true. They have time. They just no longer own it. Their time is owned by notifications, by social media, by meetings that lead nowhere, by people who expect access without permission, by habits that started as coping and became consumption. But what if you took it back? What if you reclaimed your mornings, your focus, your attention span? What if you stopped spending your prime energy on what drains you and started directing it toward what builds you? What if you designed your life like a sculptor, every hour a decision, not a default? I know the resistance. You tell yourself, I have responsibilities. Yes, you do. But responsibility is not the enemy. Overcommitment is. People minus pleasing is. Avoidance disguised as business is. And the longer you obey those patterns, the more your days become a blur, fast, full, but empty. The psychology of wasted time is rooted in avoidance. We do not scroll, overwork, overconsume because we are weak. We do it because we are afraid to feel. The silence scares us. The stillness reveals us. The space between tasks forces us to face questions we have buried for too long. So we stay busy, distracted, entertained. But under that noise is an ache that says, I am meant for more than this. To think beyond limits, you must treat your time like a temple. Not with rigidity, with reverence. You must walk through your day like it is holy ground. You must protect your attention like a gate. Because attention is the currency of power. What you give attention to grows. And what you neglect dies. That includes your dreams. That includes your relationships. That includes you. So, let us get real. Take inventory of your week. How much time went to scrolling, to worrying, to repeating stories that weaken you? How much time did you give to your goals, to your health, to your soul? What would your calendar say about what you value? Now reclaim it. Start small. Identify 1 hour per day that you will no longer give away. Call it your holy hour. Use it for what matters most: writing, building, healing, moving, creating. And when the temptation comes to fill it with convenience, resist. Not because you are rigid. Because you are reclaiming sovereignty over your life. Also start saying no. Not rudely. Clearly. No, I cannot meet this week. I am focused on a priority. No, I will not be joining that call. It does not align with where I am going. No, I will not keep this app on my phone. It is costing me more than it gives. You do not owe everyone access. You owe your future your full attention. And when guilt rises, and it will remember every no you say to the world is a yes to your alignment. Every boundary is a bridge back to your center. Every time you protect your time, you protect your becoming. Let me be clear, this is not about productivity. This is about presence. This is about no longer sleepwalking through your schedule. This is about designing days that feel like truth, not just tasks. Because when you reclaim your time, you reclaim your mind. You reclaim your peace. You start walking differently, speaking differently, deciding differently. Not because you changed everything, but because you own the one thing that shapes everything, your time. So do it now. Before another month disappears. Before another year ends in burnout. Before your life becomes a calendar of regrets. Take it back. Hour by hour. Choice by choice. Because time is not what you manage. It is what you master. And those who master time, master destiny. Chapter 10. Build a relationship with the future you. Most people speak of the future like it is an idea. A dream. Destination. But they do not speak to it. They do not listen for it. They do not build a relationship with it. And so the future becomes a stranger, something they hope for, fantasize about, even fear. But they do not realize that the future is already here, living quietly in the decisions they make each day. If you want to arrive in 2026 as more than a slightly updated version of who you were in 2024, then you must begin now to relate to the future you. Not as a someday version of yourself, but as someone who already exists. Someone with thoughts, feelings, needs, and wisdom. Someone who is waiting for you to stop drifting and start partnering. The most powerful people I have ever met do not just dream about their future, they develop a relationship with it. They speak to their future self. They ask, what would she need from me right now? What would he refuse to tolerate today? What does the future me look like under pressure? They lead their lives from vision, not memory. And that is what separates the few who transform from the many who repeat. The mistake most people make is this: they build routines based on who they have been. They design their weeks around comfort. They ask, what can I handle? Instead of what does my future require? And so by default, they live in cycles, not because they are weak, but because they are backward facing. They keep adjusting to the version of themselves they are trying to outgrow. But to think beyond limits, you must reverse the flow. You must lead your current self through the eyes of your future self. You must become intimate with your becoming. This is not about fantasy. This is about formation. Your future self is shaped not by your hopes, but by your habits. Not by what you desire, but by what you decide. And the more clearly you can see and hear that future self, the faster your transformation becomes. Let me paint the picture. Close your eyes and imagine the version of you on December 31st, 2025. 1 year from now. What does that version look like? How do they walk? How do they speak? What do they no longer explain, avoid, tolerate, or chase? Who have they forgiven? What habits have they mastered? What fears no longer control them? Now imagine they could write you a letter. Imagine they had one paragraph to speak back through time and say, this is what I need you to do this week. This is what I need you to stop ignoring. This is what I need you to face with fire. What would that paragraph say? Write it. Not as a metaphor. As a sacred contract. Because it is not fiction. That version of you is waiting. Not on time. Not on fate. On you. When I first did this exercise years ago, it shifted everything. My future self did not ask for perfection. She did not care about goals or numbers. She said to stop compromising your integrity for approval. Stop delaying the conversation that will free you. Start acting like the leader you already are. I obeyed. And the future met me halfway. This is the secret: the future you wants to come closer. But it can only meet the version of you who makes room. That room is made in habits, speech, posture, choices, values. You are either walking toward that self or waiting for that self to walk to you. So, let us get practical. Each morning, ask yourself 3 questions. What is one thing I can do today that my future self will thank me for? What is one habit I need to interrupt to protect my future? What would my highest self refuse to delay? Do this for 30 days. Watch how your mindset shifts. Watch how your standards rise. Watch how old desires fade and new convictions take root. Not because of motivation, but because of alignment. And yes, it will feel unfamiliar at first. You are building a bond with a self you have not yet met. But the more you show up for them, the clearer they become. Soon your decisions will no longer come from pressure. They will come from identity. You will no longer ask, can I do this? You will ask, is this aligned with the person I am becoming? And when that becomes your standard, the world begins to shift. Doors open. Timing aligns. Opportunities appear. Not because of luck, but because of resonance. You are no longer scattered. You are sorts. You are no longer chasing the future. You are living from it. And when 2026 arrives, you will not need to write resolutions. You will be the result of a year lived in partnership with the highest version of yourself. That version is not far. It is already speaking. Now is the time to answer. Chapter 11. Make peace with the process. There is a moment in every journey when progress feels invisible. When you have done the inner work. When you have shifted the habits. When you have raised the standard. And still, life feels slow. Unchanging. Quiet. You are doing the right things, but the results have not arrived. The new year inches closer, and your mind begins to whisper, maybe this is not working. Maybe I should go back. Maybe I am wasting my time. But what if I told you that this moment, this silent, gritty, uncertain middle is not the enemy? What if it is the most sacred part of the journey? What if this is the proving ground where your identity is built not by results, but by resilience? Before 2026 begins, you must learn to make peace with the process. Because real change does not come with fireworks. It comes with friction, with repetition, with days where you show up with no applause, no external validation, no big breakthrough. Just you, your discipline, and a quiet faith that something is growing in the dark. Most people quit here. Not because they lack skill, but because they have been trained by a culture of instant gratification. A culture that says if it does not come fast, it must not be for you. But the truth is, anything worth having takes longer than you want and demands more than you thought. And the moment you stop demanding speed, you start discovering depth. The psychology of impatience is rooted in identity fragility. When you have not fully accepted your new identity, you measure your progress by external outcomes. You tell yourself, if I do not see the results, I must not be doing it right. But what you miss is these results are lagging indicators. Identity is the leading edge. And identity is not built in the outcome, it is built in the repetition. Think of the seed underground. For weeks, it grows roots before anything is visible. You can water it, feed it, watch it, but still, nothing breaks the surface. And yet something is happening. Something vital. Something irreversible. but only if you do not quit. Your process is like that seed. Quiet. Hidden. But forming something powerful. Something that cannot be shaken once it rises. So what does it look like to make peace with the process? It means you stop negotiating with your old self. You stop asking, is this working fast enough? And you start asking, am I staying true long enough? It means you stop trying to impress people with early results, and instead impress yourself with loyalty to your own becoming. Let us get practical. Each week, create a process win list. Not based on outcomes, but on alignment. Did you show up? Did you honor your schedule? Did you say no when it was easier to say yes? Did you do the hard thing without applause? These are process wins, and they matter more than you know. Also, stop comparing timelines. Your process is not a performance. You do not need to go viral to be valid. You do not need overnight success to be on the right path. You need one thing: consistency rooted in clarity. And that kind of consistency is rare, which is why it is so valuable. You will be tempted to pivot. You will be tempted to start over, abandon the boring, chase something louder. But what you must understand is this: the greatest momentum is often built in the quiet months. In the middle. In the mundane. In the moments when no one sees what you are building except you. And if you can learn to love the process, you become unstoppable. Because your motivation is no longer tied to what you get. It is tied to who you are becoming. You no longer rise and fall based on the scale, the sale, the applause, the comment, the offer. You rise and fall based on integrity. That is how empires are built. Quietly. In process. That is how healing happens. Slowly. In process. That is how mastery emerges. Repeatedly. In process. And that is why this chapter matters. Because if you cannot make peace with the process, you will keep quitting the moment it gets quiet. And your future cannot afford another restart. Your destiny cannot afford another detour. You must stay. You must train your mind to see the sacred in the silent. You must learn to smile in the tension. You must learn to say, even if nothing changes today, I changed. And that is enough. Let this become your mantra: I am not here for speed. I am here for strength. I am not here to impress. I am here to align. I am not here to chase validation. I am here to honor the process of becoming. Because when 2026 arrives, it will not reward the ones who sprinted, collapsed, and started over again. It will reward the ones who walk daily with clarity, grit, and peace in the process. You are not late. You are right on time. And the process? It is working even when you cannot see it. Chapter 12. Close the loop and claim the year. You have made decisions. You have broken patterns. You have shifted your standards, reclaimed your mornings, confronted the silence, and cut what once drained you. But there is one final move before this year can truly close and the next one begin. You must do what most people never do. You must close the loop. Not everything needs a dramatic ending. But everything needs closure. Not for the calendar's sake, for yours. Because open loops leak power. Unfinished conversations, lingering guilt, delayed apologies, half-built goals, scattered intentions, they leave you fragmented. They make you feel behind, even when you are moving forward. They make your energy heavy, your decisions slow, your momentum hesitant. Not because you are broken. Because your soul is still managing the incomplete. Before 2026 begins, you must make peace with what will not follow you into it. Close the loop. And do it with intention. This is not about tying everything up in a perfect bow. Life does not work that way. It is about completion without control. It is about saying, this season ends here. This pattern ends here. This chapter ends here. And you say it, not because everything is resolved, but because you are no longer willing to carry the unresolved into your future. I once worked with a man who had a long list of unfinished business. Emails unsent. Dreams unspoken. A marriage unresolved. Regret scattered across his calendar. He said, I want to move on, but something stuck. He thought he needed a breakthrough. What he needed was closure. We made a list. He made the calls. Sent the messages. Spoke the truth. Buried the shame. Burned the old scripts. And what happened next shocked him. He could finally breathe again. Not because the world changed. Because he stopped living in emotional debt. What about you? What phone call have you postponed? What truth have you delayed speaking? What dream have you let collect dust? What unfinished thing is still open in your life not because it matters, but because you have been too afraid to decide? The psychology of unfinished loops is tied to emotional avoidance. When something is left undone, your nervous system stays partially activated. Always alert. Always watching. Always preparing for the pain that might rise. And so, you stay distracted. You chase the new. You start more things to feel productive. But under it all, you are tired. Not from work but from carrying what you will not finish. To think beyond limits, you must stop entertaining the idea that life will circle back on your behalf. You must be the one to close the loop. With grace. With fire. With finality. So here is your invitation. Take one day this month and call it the day of completion. No multitasking. No excuses. Just clarity. You wake up and dried every open loop in your life. Conversations. Goals. Habits. Apologies. Decisions. Then one by one you close them. Not all with action. Some with acceptance. Some with release. Some with forgiveness. But every one of them must have an ending. This is your energetic detox. Your emotional cleanse. Your spiritual reset. And once you finish, you do something few people ever do. You claim the year. You do not just finish the year, you seal it. You say, this year taught me who I am. This year showed me where I needed to grow. This year broke some things in me, but it also built something deeper. This year ends with me wide awake and fully responsible. That is what claiming the year looks like. Not writing a recap. Not romanticizing the highs or dwelling on the lows. Standing in ownership. Owning your process. Owning your patterns. Owning your progress. Because the person who owns their year is the person who does not need the new one to rescue them. You are that person now. You do not wait for fresh starts. You create them. You do not fear endings. You orchestrate them. You do not beg for transformation. You live in it. Daily. Deliberately. Decisively. So, do not leave this chapter open. Do not carry the old script into the next act. Do not enter 2026 half-minus here, half-minus there, still apologizing for who you used to be. Close the loop. Burn the old. Bless the lessons. Then raise your head. Because this year may not have given you everything you wanted, but it gave you something far more powerful. A new self. And that self is ready. A reckoning of mindset. Now stop. Before you reach for the next strategy, before you write another goal, before you dream another dream, pause. Breathe. Be still. Because this is not about what you will do. This is about who you have decided to become. This is not a transition into a new year. This is a transformation of your standard. You have read words. You have felt the shift. But none of it matters if your mindset still obeys old commands. So this is the reset. Not a reminder. A reckoning. A line drawn in the soul. Because everything you want, peace, power, clarity, impact, lives on the other side of the mindset you were afraid to claim. Here is the truth: nothing changes until you do. Not your calendar. Not your habits. Not your vision board. You must become unavailable for old thinking. You must start treating your thoughts like your most sacred asset. You must stop casually letting weakness narrate your day. Because what you allow in your mind is what you are agreeing to live out in your life. So what is your standard now? What thoughts will no longer enter uninvited? What beliefs are you finally ready to bury? What internal voice are you replacing with one of truth? Do not say you want power if your thoughts are still begging for comfort. Do not say you want alignment if your mind still entertains fear like a guest. Do not say you want transformation if you are still available for excuses. You must look your thinking in the face and say, "You work for me now." That voice in your head. It is not your master. It is your servant. You no longer let it dictate whether you move, speak, build, or rise. It obeys your vision. And your vision does not need to feel good to be followed. It needs to be honored. Reset means you write a new internal contract. Here is what it sounds like. I do not rehearse fear. I prepare for impact. I do not spiral in emotion. I return to alignment. I do not follow mood. I follow mission. I do not need more time. I need more truth. That truth lives in you already. You do not need another opinion. You need obedience to what you already know is right. And that kind of obedience begins with discipline in your thinking. You must become the guardian of your mind. Not someday. Now. You must choose to interrupt patterns in real time. When the old voice says, "This is too hard," you reply, "It is supposed to be." When it says, "You are not ready," you say, "I am becoming as I move." When it says, "They will not understand," you say, "They do not need to." I understand myself now. This reset is not poetic. It is practical. Wake up and speak truth before the world speaks noise. Journal your values before your phone delivers chaos. Move your body before your emotions try to talk you out of it. Meditate on clarity before the day hands you confusion. Your mind is the first battlefield. And you win it not by being perfect, but by being present with power. Some of you have lived your entire life, letting your thoughts set your standard. That ends now. From this moment on, your standard sets your thoughts. You no longer think based on how you feel. You think based on who you decided to become. And who is that? A person of precision. A person of fire. A person of conviction. A person who finishes what they start. A person who does not rise and fall with the weather of their emotions. A person who leads themselves first internally so the external world must adjust. This is your new normal. Not because it is easy, but because it is true. And the truth is not meant to make you comfortable. The truth is meant to make you free. So reset your mind. Reset your tolerance. Reset your rules. And then look the future in the eye and say, I am no longer available for the old version of me. I am no longer led by fear dressed as logic. I am no longer ruled by narratives I never questioned. I have reset. And from this point forward, my mind will reflect my mission, not my memory. This is your alignment. This is your line in the sand. This is your reset. Now stand in it. Own it. Guard it. Because from here on out you do not think to survive. You think to rise. Cross the line, burn the bridge. You are here. Not halfway. Not wandering. Not guessing. Here. After everything, every doubt faced, every truth spoken, every mindset reset, you are no longer the person who began this book. You are no longer the one who asked for more time. You are no longer the one who postponed the dream, dimmed the fire, delayed the decision. You are the one who stayed. The one who leaned in. The one who listened when your future whispered, it is time. So now, you cross the line. Not the finish line. The starting line. The one that separates the person you were trained to be from the person you were born to be. The one that divides those who live in reaction from those who rise in authority. The one that says, I do not care what this year has taken from me. I care what I still choose to give. This is your final call, not to plan, but to embody. Because the gap between where you are and where you want to be is not more knowledge. It is more embodiment. It is the decision to become the walking, breathing proof that transformation is not theory. It is truth. And truth must be worn, not just read. The world is filled with people who say someday, people who highlight dreams but live dull lives. People who post their goals and forget them a week later. But that is not you. Not anymore. Because you know something you do not need a perfect year to live with power. You just need a present one. You do not need every answer. You just need alignment. You do not need every door to open. You just need courage to knock. You do not need applause. You just need integrity in silence. And when you move from that place, when you lead from that inner clarity, you become unforgettable. You become the one who did not wait. The one who walked when others stalled. The one who faced the fire and built their future with it. But now, it is not about what you will do. It is about what you will no longer allow. No more casual energy. No more inherited excuses. No more relationships that lower your volume. No more tolerating the old self out of politeness. No more negotiating with delay. No more conversations where your truth has to hide. From this moment forward, you are the line. Not the version of you they remember. The version they cannot predict. The one who speaks with clarity. Who creates without apology. Who walks with grounded fire. Who knows that their presence is not a favor, it is a force. And when you feel the pull to return, when old habits rise, when tired voices echo, when the temptation to play small creeps in, you remind yourself, I burned the bridge. I did not leave that version of me behind for a visit. I left and never returned. That is what this work was for. Not for a better to-do list. Not for a prettier journal. Not for performance. But for power. The kind of power that says, this life is mine now. I no longer wait for someone to hand it to me. I claim it. You are not here to survive another year. You are here to define it. To make 2026 the year the old version of you was buried and the real one was born. So say it. Out loud. I cross the line. I burn the bridge. I rise with fire in my lungs and a mission in my bones. I do not ask for permission. I embody the decision. I am ready now. You are not late. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are the one. And it begins now.